as y'all probably already see the thumbnail, we're talking about my good friend Dalen. He's if I'm correct, a program manager for a fame company, and we just gonna be talking about him, his job duties, how to break into his particular field or other fields in IT. But Dalen, go ahead, introduce yourself, man. Give folks a little bit of background about yourself.
Yeah, for certain. Dalen, I'm originally from Mobile, actually Pritchard, for those who may know, Alabama. That's third coast representing, and been in Texas for a little over 15, really, actually 16 plus years now. And I've commuted between Texas and California for work as Ken to, said, been in the tech industry. But Dallas Fort Worth has a great tech scene. Austin has a dope tech scene. But that's really me from a tech professional standpoint. Went to University of Alabama, graduated a computer science degree, went to PV, got an MBA there. Um, been in tech for 17, 18 years. I started as an intern with a small startup company in Mobile, came to Dallas, did an intern, actually got a full-time role with a startup backed by Mark Cuban. So that was a great, dope experience. From there, I worked with a couple of other startups, one in well, actually, the two at next startups that I worked with were in the fintech space. I did work in advertising for a minute, and then I ended up getting on with Intel, which is in the hardware space, and now I'm at Google as a technical programmer or a data and insights program manager. But I've been doing very, very technical coding, programming, software development, architecture, design, managing, large scale applications for business sides of the house. Done the entrepreneurial startup scene. Had a company, got some funding for it. Didn't last, it failed, but at the same time, you
Yeah,
get a lot of exposure going through that process. And of course, doing a lot of this work, I've always been committed to things like black empowerment, whether it's the black empowerment movement or just grassroots organizations. Been involved with other organizations, urbanly, the Black Chambers, NESB, et cetera, really to help push the technical side of things as well as economics, circulating the black dollar, promoting black businesses in any way that I possibly can. That's just been something I've been doing really for a lifetime, for real.
man, good stuff. We're gonna get into all of that, and I just wanna. I see. I'm looking in the chat. I see my good friend Bab. Another IT person.
What's good? What's
They got,
good?
yeah, Bab. That's a good brother. He came on the channel as well. He was talking about different things in IT and how to become a Scrum Master and all that. Actually, my good friend Bab, he has a course on getting certified as a Scrum Master. So
That's dope.
guys, if you see Bab, click on his link and reach out to him. He's on Facebook. That's his name. As you can see in the chat, that's his name on Facebook. You can reach out to him as well. He got some great courses on how to get certified on being a Scrum Master. Now back to you. Now, David. So, what inspired you to get into tech? What inspired you? Like when you was in your high school days or early on, what say, man, I'm gonna go into that field? What was that motivation, man? What
You,
guided you there?
you know what? And this is a true story. And I've talked to my brother about it. He told me this, and it had to be like back in 98, 97, shortly after Microsoft released Windows 95, Windows 98. He was like, hey, man, Microsoft has produced more millionaires than the NBA. All
Mm,
right. And when he said that, I was like, dang, that I didn't really grasp it. I didn't really think about it much, but I've always been kind of leaning on math and science as just my strong set, my strong skills. I really didn't have a lot of interest in reading or history as much. Now I've developed that more so, but early on in grade school, math and science were my thing. So I was really into architecture, design, drawing, anything with computers were cool. And actually, I didn't even say computers at the time. Growing up in the hood, it was computer. So, but that's what it was for me. It was like, okay, my brother introduced me to this concept of making money, in tech, and it was like Microsoft at the time. They were the king, which they still are a big company. They should definitely be a part of the FANG movement. But he told me that, and I was heavy in football. I was heavy in basketball. Football was my number one. Basketball was like number two, three. Baseball, sports. I was really heavy in that. And then he explained, and then I had to take a step back and say, you know what? Okay, what can I do with my skills in that space? And then I went to school, and computer science was like one of the programs that I just heard of people doing. I had no programming experience.
Mm,
So I mean, most I've done was design flyers and play in Word and stuff like that. But
yeah.
I wasn't, what I'm saying, I wasn't growing up with anyone programming or teaching me anything about that. I just saw the opportunity in the market in the way things were trajectory, changing, going towards computers and technology, and computer science was the only thing I had access to. I didn't really know anything about servers or anything. Web applications, desktop, I didn't know the differences. I would install software on a computer, but other than that, I had no clue. You know what I mean? So that's what got me interested in it. And then my background and experiences doing flyers and doing business kind of help facilitate or guide me and cement my career in this space. Just because then it became natural. Okay, I understand the business side of what we're trying to build and why we're building this, because we're trying to help someone at the end of the day. And that was an interest to me. And then I had a little bit of, like I said, I would draw and design. So I had a UI, or now they call it UI UX type of experience and exposure, which really helped me kind of break into tech when I was at the startup that Mark Cuban. All those other guys were very heavy engineers. They were heavy coders. And my skill sets, I can design, so I can do HTML, CSS. That gave me an opportunity to get in, and I also knew business, so I can do copy and do marketing. So we did ad campaigns, and I was a person over that. That kind of introduced me to really web applications and doing real big projects in in the tech space. And before that, I had no clue outside of school. And school is totally different from the real world. I tell everyone that, but it's always good to have those fundamentals.
Well, let's transition to that. You said the schooling is different than the actual real world application than what you do in your day to day. So, would you recommend? Like we get this a lot. I'm in a Black IT group on Facebook,
Yeah,
and this is one of the popular questions that always comes up: is a degree should somebody should go to school like to get into tech, or should they just go out there and get like a entry level tech job? Like what is well, I guess what is the help desk or something like that?
yeah.
What would you recommend?
And it really depends on the end game. If you want an entry level or early career type of role, you don't have to go to school for that. I've mentored and coached individuals who have no technical background. They may have went to school for something else, English or hard or natural science, history, biology, something totally different. And now they've made the switch over to tech because of the demand, right? So the opportunities are there if that's what you want to do. If you want to get into tech, I know you've even done the sales route. So there's
Yeah.
opportunities to get into tech in different ways. If you want to get into, programming as a software engineer, school does help. And I'm not going to say it doesn't. It does help. It's not required, it's not mandatory, but you do
Mhm.
need to have some fundamental understanding of the basics. Those are data types, understanding data structures, and understanding algorithms. Those things you have to be disciplined to coach and teach yourself. There are boot camps out there now that allow people to do it. You have to be aggressive in that situation, but you don't require school to get into the tech industry. That is a myth. There's a lot of programs now. I even been trying to promote a lot of alternative programs. Google
Yeah.
currently has an apprenticeship out there. There's other companies that have apprenticeships, and the applications. I think they were due. A lot of them were due last week. So I was trying to promote and encourage people to get out there and do that. But take advantage of apprenticeships, internships. Those are opportunities that don't require you to have a degree necessarily. And there are entry level help desks, technical support roles that get you the exposure to the tech scene. And if you love it, you can always learn once you're in there and develop yourself to get into more deeper or technical roles.
And I have a feeling that's good information, man. That's good information. That's gonna be valuable to someone. I know it may be some parents that may be watching this. They may have some kids now. Even you have teens now, and young teens. And what would you say the starting point where you want your kids to start to like, hey, let me feed them a little bit of tech and stuff to get them prepare them to go into this field. What would be a good starting point for teens to get the fundamentals, to get those building blocks, so when they get about to come out of high school, it don't all be a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff too confusion. Yeah, it's hard. It's like, as the older you get, the harder you learn certain stuff. So what would you like? What would you say like a good starting point for like teens to learning?
There, there's tons of opportunities now, right, to learn and get exposure to it. One, I say for parents, try to make it fun for them. Find programs or tools or camps for the kids, whatever they're engaged in. There's programs, and I'll share this information. There's programs called, it's one that's called Scratch. That's online. It's really just sliding little tools around. It's real easy. It's something my son has been doing for the last 2 or 3 years, and now he's 10. He's very confident and has been a lot of exposure to it. Just building applications or building programs. Very, very simple user interface for anyone of any age to do it, but it's geared towards children. But getting them to understand math, getting them to understand the basics of algebra, building things out. Hold 1 second. This is my daughter and her coach
Okay,
coming over. Okay, I'm gonna put it on
okay.
pause.
But yeah, people, like you were saying, start the kids out. Make sure you keep it fun. At the end of the day, keep it fun for the kids. Go out and research those different type of programs and camps for kids to take advantage of learning how to do code instead of having your kids just chill around the house during summertime. Hey, put them in some of these summer IT camps. We big on spending money to sending our, like, especially our young black boys, to these basketball and football camps in the summertime. We need to change the narrative and send our kids to these coding camps, during the summertime. We need to do more things like that, sending the kids to the coding camps uh, to build those things, because they have a better chance of becoming a millionaire going into the IT field compared to going to being an NFL or an NBA basketball player or a football player, where the odds are not in their favor at all. At least if you put an investment in sending the kids to the coding camps, then they have a better chance of becoming a millionaire compared to sending them to these summer football programs, these summer basketball camps. And Dalen, we had Dalen back. And what you were saying about the summer camps, Dalen, keeping it
Yeah,
fun, and what else?
absolutely. There's summer camps. There's programs. Like I said, Scratch is one. There's another one, and I'll share with you. I know it's one around making
Yeah.
beats. That Amazon and Pharrell Williams had partner on. Google has one around making beats. So that incorporates music and also programming. But it's a way to make it fun where it's not overwhelming. Allow them
Yeah.
to engage themselves and find themselves in programming. To me, that's the biggest win, is when the student or the child is wanting to do it. They want to build or see themselves doing something. They can build games, Roblox games, or whatever the kids are into now. They can figure out ways to build these with very, very little tools or very, very little experience needed, which is cool, which makes it engaging. And I heard you talking about the sports. I was, I played football at the college level, and I had a chance to see it and get exposed to it, at a top tier program, and I still think that we have to have a higher investment on the education, a higher investment on the tech side. If you look at it today, even, and look at the owners of the sports leagues. Now, I know we be talking about the numbers, but look at the owners of these sports leagues. A lot of these teams are owned by tech moguls. All right.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't
Yeah.
know that, right? We
Yeah.
know Mark Cuban, but we also have my man
For
up
the Clippers.
for the Clippers.
Yeah.
It's several teams
Seattle,
that's owned. Yeah,
Seattle
Seattle.
Seahawks. yeah,
Seahawks, a lot of teams, and a lot of
yeah.
new money. You know, your top 5 or 6 billionaires are all related to tech. You know, so we have to see that as a millionaire creator versus looking at the NFL and the NBA as the only option. I'm a fan, huge fan of team sports. I understand the value there, but also we have to understand and see the writing on the wall where tech is really taking not only the world, but where is it taking our community? Whether it's going to be a part of that movement or revolution, or we're going to be on the outside looking in. So I definitely strongly encourage individuals to take advantage, even if it's not heavily involved. Get yourself a little exposure and experience to technology.
And that's key because there's no revolution without no type of finance behind it, and a lot of things we want to do to insulate ourselves from stuff that happened like in Buffalo. It's hard
Yes.
to do when our people are not financially secure and don't have the means and the financial power to move and shape things politically and so many other ways. So this is a trickle down that can affect so many different ways and help our people with just overall raising the economic power of the overall group as well. And let me ask you this, David. So, what would you say would be some barriers to entry? Like, what would you say, man? This may be a barrier to that. Just stick to what you're doing because you know your field better than anyone. What would you say some barriers to get into your field?
So the three main barriers to getting in, I'll start with if you're trying to get into a school or a program. One that is limited, right? And we have to learn how to compete, just like we can compete in basketball and football. We have to know how to compete in the tech scene as well, and that means, hey, you being obsessed and dedicated to working on it. You know, if you are wanting to get into it, you need to know how to build some apps, spend some time doing a lot of the things we're talking about on your own, whether it's watching YouTube videos, signing up for a subscription to learn something, building things on your phone, whatever it is, getting your exposure and your knowledge base up. So then once you're getting ready to get into a program, it becomes second nature to you. The second thing is the bigger barrier to me is it isn't a lot of blacks in tech in general, right? And when you look at the academia world, it's even fewer blacks in tech in that space, meaning you're not going to have a lot of professors or teachers or coaches that's going to be able to walk you through or give you a lot of positive feedback and encouragement that may be
Mm,
in your same space. You know what I mean? So in some careers, business or some other sciences you may have, or history, you may have some black professors or black teachers that really can hold your hand and coach you and encourage you and inspire you. Well, in tech, you're not going to always have that, right? I don't think I've had any black technical professors or teachers in the academia space. There are some that exist, but it's very few and far between. So being disciplined and knowing how to find your resources, finding communities and building communities to help you through that can be a huge barrier, but that's a way to develop to overcome and achieve that barrier. The next thing, of course, is trying to get a job, right? After you get into school, there's a ton of jobs out there, but a lot of times going through that interview process, it can be a challenge. One, because there may not be a lot of culture relevancies, there may not be a lot of blacks interviewing you. So that's also something that I really try to be promoting and on the forefront of, is making sure that I'm involved in the interview process for a lot of individuals. Candidates will reach out to me if they're interested in roles. HR teams will connect me with individuals who are interested in roles, just so then they can know, hey, from a black perspective, how is it working at this company, or how is it working in tech? Those are the types of things that are barriers. Then once you're in, you may not have a cool manager. You know, it may not be a black manager. I had one of my close associates. She's known now, right, nationally. She had an incident where she had a police brutality issue
mm.
incident, right? And when I say national, it's nationally known, where she didn't go to work. It happened on maybe a weekday. She didn't go to work the next day, but she was back at work the next week. You know, after going through all of this emotional and social distress, she was back at work, and she never told her manager, right?
Oh wow.
And to me, that was a sign. And I talked to her. She told me, I was like, hey, why didn't you tell your manager? She said she didn't feel comfortable. So a lot of times we're in these spaces and we haven't developed relationships. So that can be a barrier. to your growth, your safety, your development. When you're in these corporations and you don't have a great relationship with your manager, but in those aspects or in those times, I encourage individuals to develop a team outside of your direct management chain, so then you can have sounding boards or mentors to help groom and address these type of issues that may occur, whether it's something that this extreme or if it's something minor. Hey, I want to know how to navigate or change roles or get promoted. Hey, you want to have some people that can help you and coach you through that process. Those are all barriers when you're black in this space, but there's opportunities for you to address those as well.
Man, that's see people. That's good information. And then they just say, hey, people, they make it through the interview process. Well, but before we jump forward, let me ask you about the interview process. In your situation with getting on with Google, what was the interview process? Like somebody say they get the skills, they learn everything they need to do your job, and they say, hey, I'm ready to apply for Google. What is that interview process like?
Interview process it is difficult, it's challenging. So even before you get into the interview, there's a lot of prep. You remember I was talking about dedication and obsession. You can look at, Google it, right? You can see how long a lot of individuals prepare before they go into the interview. It may be 2 months, it may be 3 months, if you're not already working in the field or if you're not already doing similar work. In some instances, it's still good to prepare, a month or two before the interviews, so then you can familiarize yourself with that interview process, because the interview process can be challenging, depends on what your role is. If you're on a technical ladder, it's going to be a lot more technical design questions, programming questions, whiteboarding challenges and things like that that you will have to get through to really get an opportunity to interview and pass that interview. And it's kind of graded based on how you respond to certain questions. And usually the interviews last about 5 to 6 hours. You're going, so it's probably about a day worth of interviews. For the full interview, the on-site interview, you're going through and meeting with 4 or 5 different people during that time, and each interview is about 45 minutes to an hour, depends on what the topic is. But it can be stressful, but it's really to evaluate and understand what kind of person you are from a skill standpoint. How do you address and tackle problems? Because these are, when you look at companies like Google, you're talking about solving problems for billions of users, right? If you're looking at companies like Microsoft, any of the FANG companies, they're looking at solving problems for billions of users. So you're coming in, they're going to pay you well, but at that same time, they're going to evaluate your skill set to understand where you land on the ladder, is the term that they use, to fit you to a role that allows you to be successful. So they're going to scrutinize your work, scrutinize you as a skill, a technical side of the house, to understand how how you go about answering these questions. And there's tons of resources online to help prepare you going into those interviews.
Yeah, and man, that's a good point. Even in my sales role, it was different. I had to do like 3 45-minute interviews with a 15-minute break in between. But they prepare you though. They tell you, they send you a whole interview package telling you how they want
Yeah.
their questions answered. Like for me, it was a star format. Uh, the answer questions, you got to be detailed with your answers. You got to be detailed with your situations and examples that you give. And I'm guessing for a technical, you had to do probably some technical to show how you can build a code or something in a process. So yeah, you gotta be on point when you dealing with Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and Microsoft in there as well. You gotta be on point with the interview. But they will prepare you. They will give you a whole package on how you need to prepare for it. So just take your time, take a month, 2 months, wherever you need to prepare for that interview because it's going to be very detailed, to say the least. Um, so overall, so what does a day to day look like for you in your position? What is your? I know people because in your role, you said you are a program manager, right?
Yeah,
So
so I'm a data and insights program manager. So I'm looking for indicators, KPIs,
okay,
establishing and driving, building KPIs. How do we measure the success of our work? And I'll get in a little bit more detail of my team. But as a program manager, you're really trying to make sure everything's on track, everything lined up, resources are lined up, understanding objectives, making sure a team understand objectives, staying on track, staying focused, and you're forecasting and delivering according to your forecast. So, for example, if you say you're going to get something done in 6 months or 12 months, you'll have to create milestones to ensure that you're on track. We don't want to wait to the last minute to try to push everything down the pipe. That's not going to work, you know. So you establish these indicators or certain milestones to measure your success as you're building out your product or whatever it is that you're delivering. But my team in particular, we focus in on product inclusion and equity, which is a totally new space for me. It was something that I wasn't aware of, but my manager, through the interview process at Google, you have something that's called Team Fit, where you get a chance to meet with a couple of teams. My manager was a person that reached out to me, and she was like, "Hey, I think this would be a great role." She explained it to me, and I was like, "I'm in." But really, what we try to do is ensure that the products that Google build is equitable for all its user. And what you're seeing now, even with the Pixel phone, for example, you're seeing some commercials with the Pixel phone talking about the lens, the camera
mhm.
on it, making sure that it's reflective of the skin tones, and really talking about darker skin tones, trying to address making sure that blacks don't show up or be darker than they are represented. So we try to address those types of things with our technology and things that we build, so then everyone is equitable when they're using a Google product overall. And that was just one example, but there's tons of other products that we build and support. So in that space, what I try to do is try to measure the success around that as well. So for example, if we have lens out, then we want to know how's it doing? Are people taking more photos? Are people more excited? Is there more users now going for a Pixel phone over Apple phone or traditional Android phone because of the quality that we're providing to the end users? Now that's very niche and very specific, but the skills that I have are transferable to other industries. Before I was at Google, I was at Intel, and I built a data analytics team there, where we were measuring business indicator success, such as, hey, are we getting certain market share? Are we making sure our supply chain is online and we have all the materials, and how do we kind of analyze that? So those are a lot of the data analytics things that you're seeing going on in every space right now, whether it's in education, whether it's in um, any industry, health. Right now, you're seeing a lot of data, especially around COVID. So those skills that you build when you're in the tech space could definitely be transferable to any industry, which is one thing that I definitely love about it.
Man, that's good. That's good shit, man. People need to hear that because, like you said, we're not represented in that space, so we don't have a lot of people that look like us to tell us the ins and out of different jobs. Like basically, what you kind of explained. And correct me if I'm wrong. It didn't sound too technical per se. You know.
I'm gonna
I'm
make it
right or
sound
wrong.
easy. It's technical when you're looking at the under the hood, right? So when you're dealing with data, that's when it becomes technical,
Okay.
um, because now you're dealing with gigabytes
When
and
I say I'm
terabytes.
sorry, when I say technical, I mean it's not coding involving particular.
Yeah, it's not a lot. It's not as much coding as some of my previous roles. It's not a software engineer where you're actually coding day to day. For me
Yeah.
now, my role is not as technical. You're right there. So this role is a program manager role. My strengths is my technical side in this role, but a program manager doesn't have to be a software engineer. A program manager a lot of times come in. They can be an engineer. They can be a business person. They can be a salesperson. They can be anyone. You can program manage in the housing industry. You can program manage in any project, right? So it's really about, hey, ensuring that we're getting our deliverables met and we're delivering at the end of the day a successful something, a widget, a product, whatever it is, we're
And
getting
it's
it
just
out
an
the door.
added bonus that you know the code inside.
Yes,
I
yes,
see
yes,
that.
yes.
See,
So
and that's important to know people that even though we talking about tech companies, don't get in the mind that it's good that you can know coding, you can be a computer engineer and all that. That's fine. That's an added bonus. But don't let that shy you away from this industry as well, because you can go and be a program manager and things like that without knowing per se how to actually get in there and do the coding and all that type of stuff. That's because that's good information, and that's another thing. Bab just mentioned in the comment. He said, "I have worked with some very non-technical product owners and program managers."
Yes.
So he's in the tech field himself. So he that's another example, guys. Don't let it shy you away, make you afraid. But if you do have the urge and the want to be one of those engineers, do it. But just know if you go that route, you don't have to stay in that route. And vice versa. If
Yes.
you come in on the sales side, or you come in as a project manager, a scrum master, you can go and do the engineer thing, learn the engineer. You will have a easier barrier to enter because you already in the company now. So it works both ways, you know.
Absolutely. And with a lot of these large companies, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, et cetera, it's not just these roles, right? At Google, we have physical doctors, medical doctors, right? We
Mm,
have Google Fit. So you have medical doctors that are on staff that's getting paid probably more than most doctors are getting paid. So then you have attorneys, that's doing whether it's product or transactional. There's tons of roles and opportunities for attorneys that are non-traditional. They're not going into the courtroom, a lot of them, but they're consulting around contracts and engagements, user agreements, as a lot of us have to sign up when we're signing on to a product. That's what a lot of them are doing. And you have salespeople, you have all these different roles that make these products work. Engineers are a role in most of these companies, but it's definitely not the only role. And I can't give you a percentage or anything like that of what the makeup of a company is, but I would go on and say it's probably 50% is probably engineers in a lot of these roles, are maybe a little less, and you're having a lot more business functions, HR, uh, development. It's a lot of educators at
mhm.
Google. People that are former teachers and things like that now at Google, because we're trying to do a Google Classroom. So how do we improve a product? Best way is to get those individuals that have expertise and knowledge, and getting that product in the door in a lot of schools and things like that.
Yeah, and people, I'm not trying to say shy away from doing the engineer stuff, because we
Yeah.
definitely need black engineers. We definitely need it. We need to grow that number, you know. But if you in the game and you say, I just want to get in right now, go these other routes. Val can help you with the be a scrum master,
Yes.
program manager, project manager, sales. Me and my entry points was sales. I love sales, but if I didn't want to continue to do sales, I can get free training on how to be an engineer with the company and all these different things if I wanted to switch from sales to do something else. Sometimes you just want to get in the door the easiest way, and then transition, because once you win, it's a whole lot easier to make that transition to an engineer. I guarantee it. I see it all the time in my current position. Man. So a lot of people want to know, this is one of the main things, people want to know this. You can talk about your position, another position, any position at Google you want to talk about. People want to know what that bread looking like. So what we talking about? What we talking about money wise? Let's say, hey, they want to do your position. What we talking about? We ain't got to give your number, but we can just get
Yeah.
a number, somebody, a position close to yours.
So let me do this. I'm gonna see. I can drop things into this
The
chat.
chat.
Let me test it out. Yeah, make sure you see what I'm dropping in the chat. Did you see that? Did I see send something? Chat with everyone in the studio. Did that come through? It was a test
Yes.
message.
Now you put it in the private chat. You see the
Okay.
main.
Let me see
You see the
comments.
comment.
Oh, okay, I see. All right. Let me see if I can send a message there.
Yeah.
Oh, they may not let me. I don't see a option to drop a comment in here. Let me do this.
If you, I tell you what, put it in the private one, and I
and then
copy
you
and
can
paste.
share it.
Yeah, I put it in the main chat.
Okay. So um the dollars inside of the tech companies is totally totally different, especially in some of these big boys. And I wanted to share something because I didn't want people just to hear me saying it. I like to provide sources when I state
Yeah,
certain
you can put
things.
it. You can put it
So
in that private chat. I copy and paste
yeah,
it.
you'll copy it out for me. So let
Okay.
me do
Yep.
this. Punch in, and people can go in and punch in levels, and they give you an opportunity to kind of see where things are. Levels, FYI, levels dot FYI. They give you a compensation of where people land traditionally. Not saying it's 100% accurate. There's other tools out there that talk about compensation packages as well, and I can kind of walk you through where individuals are as far as in compensation. So entry level in a tech role now you're about 100,000, right? And that's usually a makeup, of and this is where it gets crazy too in big tech companies. That's usually a makeup of bonus, your base salary, and some stock option. All right. So, and that's annual salary. So it may be 125, 150, depending on where you at, and how well you do on your interviews and things like that. Um, so you'll have some mix up, and I'll just say 150 for easy math. You'll say 100,000 for base salary, maybe around 25,000 for a bonus, and then 25,000 for stock equity, right? And that's kind of a year. And you may get stock equity is what's the game changer. And I had to learn this because I was working in the startup scene and we were looking at stock, but it don't always come to fruition. I didn't become a millionaire off the stock with the tech companies or the
Yep.
startups, but what happens is your stocks get refreshed, usually on some kind of frequency, whether it's on an annual basis or a biannual basis or based on promotion. So you may have $100,000 in stocks in this example for 4 years. So that means you'll get 25,000, usually 25,000 every year. Okay.
Mm.
So that next year you can get another $100,000 in stock. So you'll get another $25,000 a year. Okay. So, but in that next year, that year two, instead of you just getting 25,000, you're getting 50,000 plus your 25,000, right? Your bonus plus your 100,000 or whatever your base may be. So in 1 year's time, your salary may have jumped by 25K just because you now got another equity spot. Okay.
Wow.
All right. So then that next year, you can encounter the same thing happening again. Not saying it's guaranteed, but a lot of times that's how the trajectory looks. So you get another 100,000 over 4 years. So that means now that third year, you got the first 25,000 that you got from your first year. Your second year, you got another 25. So that's 50. Then that third year, you get another 25. So that's 75,000 plus 25,000 bonus. I'm just throwing this out there, plus
Yeah,
your
yeah.
base salary. Okay. So now you're looking at what 100, 200,000 in 3 years.
Damn.
Okay. So 35 in stock, 25 in bonus, and 100,000 in base salary. So that's where you see these numbers crazy, or seeing housing looking crazy, especially in San Francisco, Seattle, those areas, where it's Silicon Valley, and even in Austin right now, you're seeing housing numbers look crazy because
Awesome.
after 3 or 4 years, you working at a company, you can go buy a home for cash for 300,000. You can go buy a home for cash, or you could put, $200,000 down, or $300,000 down, and you can afford $1 million home. So looking at what's going on in California, that's what's been happening over the years, and a lot of black people just been out of that loop, out of that equation. So if you go to levels and just punch in a role, you could punch in my role, which is you could punch in technical program manager, or TPM, in Google, and you'll see these levels that pop up on levels, and it'll show you salary ranges for those roles. Let me
Wow.
know. Let me know
No,
if
I
y'all
put.
see it.
I already put it in there.
You already put it in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so everybody will be able to see it, and then even when they go back and watch the YouTube video, they'll be able to punch it in and check it out. That's great information. And man, and I was just while you was talking, I was thinking like me, you, and Bal, we all in the DFW area. I know you may be in Cali sometimes, but for the most part, you here. Man, we gonna have to get up with. I know we kind of talked about it. We're gonna have to get up with Chris Nettles and work with him with putting programs and bringing these tech companies into the Fort Worth ISD. I say Fort Worth ISD because I still live in Fort Worth. I know you used to live in Fort Worth, so you still
Still pay taxes over
involved.
there.
Yeah, yeah, you still involved with the community over there. So yeah,
Absolutely.
man, we gonna all have to get together and get with Mr. Nettles and get into these school district and get with I forgot the other guy name on the board and of the school district, and because we in a rare position, especially me and you, we work for big tech companies, and uh Bab, he's involved in tap and tech, and we need to leverage this and see what we can do, man, because that's the only way. We got to catch these kids while they're young. um just like back in the day when we had the wood shop in high school.
Mhm. Mhm.
A
Mhm.
lot of guys benefited out off those programs. Till this day, they took them out
Absolutely.
of school. To me, that was the dumbest thing schools can do, was to take wood and those um
Trades.
those trays away, man. That was the dumbest thing. It's like it was trying to dumb us down intentionally. It probably was. Um, so we need to usher in a new age of bringing trades, but the tech space though, as a trade back into the school, and we got to be very proactive, especially with our black youth
Yeah.
that's in these predominantly black schools.
Yeah, no, no, I'm all in on that. It's something that I'm actually working with Google now. I've worked with Intel in the past on it, where we've actually adopted schools, and we would bring the schools in. We would actually have them doing workshops and activities on campus, exposing them to the technical space. I'm writing or emailing with a few students on a regular basis, checking in to see how they're doing with grades, recommending projects and things like that. So there's a framework for opportunities to do that type of work with Fort Worth ISD. We can find some companies. I'll work with Google. I'm part of the Black Google Network and Google
Yep.
as a whole that will be interested in doing some of that work. We're actually looking to partner with a couple of nonprofits this year. So those are some of the things that I'm definitely passionate about and interested in because I see the value and the opportunity for those skills, and I still see value and opportunities for electrician technical skills that were taught, like you were saying, in a lot of those shop classes back in the day, woodwork, whatever it is, because those things are a lot of valuable skills that at the end of the day that we all need, especially if you want to be a
Exactly.
homeowner and if you're looking for a role opportunity. Adding value is the biggest thing that we can do, and this is really what technical space is about, is really adding value for individuals and making their lives better, and that's how we create these opportunities in the tech space, in Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all these guys. That's what we're doing at the end of the day, is trying to add value for our customers.
Man, and that's great, and that's a perfect way to end it, man. I know I didn't want to keep you on too long tonight, but that was a lot of, man. You were dropping that knowledge tonight, man. And before we get off, is anything you want to say or whatnot?
Yeah, definitely, man. It's this is a thing that I've been wanting to do more of. So this is encouraging me to definitely kick it off. I'm gonna probably tap you a little bit to make sure I'm
Yep.
doing the right thing and making it happen the right way. People can check me out. I'm on IG, but I don't be active on it like I need to be. But
I see
just
you just
Dalen.
started a new IG page or
Yeah,
something, man.
just Dalen. So JUSTDALAIN. You can find me there. And I got Making It Cool, MAKINIT cool.com. That's a blog that I've had for years, talking about a lot of the things that you and I just talked about. So it's not something that I'm new to. This is something I've been doing for years, advocating for youth, advocating for the Black community, really advocating for individuals in the tech and professional space, advocating for companies to go out and reach out into our communities and recruit from HBCUs, partner with HBCUs, reach out to NSB, reach out to other Black organizations, student organizations to bring in talent, because that's usually, or that has been a term that they will throw out is, you know what, we can't find Black talent, but we have to show that Black talent exists, and we have to make sure Black talent is prepared to go in and succeed, knock it out of the park, and from there start or build their own Googles, their own Amazons. And there's nothing wrong with Microsoft's, Amazon, and Google's, but we know that right now there's no Black CEOs. There's very few Blacks leadership, C-suite leaderships in a lot of these corporations. So in a lot of instances, it's just not going to be any bandwidth, but we have to go create our own. And we can still try to push in that space, but I'm also encouraging us to look into this entrepreneurial startup world as well.
Man, there you go, folks. You hear it. You hear it right here, man. Like, hey, on this channel right here, we're gonna bring the people that's in these fields, leading tech fields. But not only that, have a African center mindset. It's not
Yes.
just about. It ain't just about, hey, they Black and they in that field. It's about, hey, how can we bring it back to the people? How can we uplift the people? That's what this channel is about. All about how can we get this information and spread it to the masses of our people at the end of the day. And that's what we're trying to do. So remember to always subscribe, share, like. We're trying to grow the YouTube channel so we can spread this great wealth of information to more and more of our people out there in the internet world. So do that for me, guys. And that's it for tonight. And I want to say, Dalen, thank you for coming through. Hey,
Yes,
I know
sir.
you're a busy man, so I'm glad you came through tonight. Other than that, people, y'all have a good night, and all power to the people. Y'all take care.
All right, fam. Peace.